It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Canon Fodder. Here are your hosts, Brian Cameron, Matt Booker, and Mark Newbold.
Grab your bookmarks, it's time to take cover as we unleash the Canon Fodder over the Star Wars galaxy of literature. Canon Fodder is the home of Fantatrax Radio for everything Star Wars literature, from comics, books, magazines and partworks. Every month we delve below the depths of the covers of what is new in Star Wars literature, analyse it and give it our honest assessment. We cast our eyes to the future and see what releases we can't wait to read, look back at classic releases, meet and talk with the talent creating the content, as well as discuss the latest literature news. So who are we? I'm your host Brian Cameron, a comic and book collector. I've been collecting for some 30 years and I'm a big fan of collecting variants in foreign language releases. Normally we're joined by Mark Newbold, but he's busy preparing for the Star Wars podcast stage that he's hosting in April. But as always, I'm joined here tonight by Matt.
Hi, good evening, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. You've had a pretty exciting couple of weeks.
Well, I'm a comic retailer of 25 years. I collect one of every Marvel comic now. I don't go down the variant route. Can't be doing that no more. Did it with Dark Horse, got all their stuff, and then Marvel came along and I went, now one of each is enough. Yeah, I had a really crazy couple of weeks. Last week I was up in London for a day with Pozu Shoes, who I've helped out and worked for a bit for the last few years since they got the Star Wars license. Went with Martin and Claire from Fantatrax and shot a lot of stuff for Fantatrax TV that's coming soon, and had an insight at some other stuff that's coming down the pike, and gave them a hand with bits and bobs. And then this week, it'll all be live on Fantatrax now, we're giving away a Hasbro sail barge. In conjunction with Hasbro and HasLab, Fantatrax, we given an exclusive Jabba the Hutt's sail barge katana, and we did an unboxing in the shop. And if anybody wants to come along to my shop at Automatic Comics in Corsham, Wiltshire, between Bath and Swindon, you can have a look at it for the next week until we actually get round to giving it away. And the competition should be live now on Fantatrax. Go and enter. You can win the sail barge.
There's a pretty cool little book that comes with the sail barge as well.
There is a little booklet, yes. The hardback book they did to the Kickstarter, HasLab backers last year in America, does not come with the European global version. That was only given out to the Americans who actually backed it in the first place. The rest of the world don't get that book. But it does come with a little booklet on how to put the thing together. And having a read of it, it's actually really good fun. It's only a little pamphlet thing of how to put the sails on and how to put the rear rudders and the cannons and the other bits that are in a bag with it on. But whoever wrote that had some good fun with that. Because it's like, you need to lie it on its side. Gently lay it on a tauntaun rug and stuff. So there's nice little bits in there. So that was a nice little bit of fun to do.
I picked up the hardback book last summer on eBay.
You bought one?
Yeah.
Somebody backed it, had a flip through and then flogged it.
Yeah, some crazy guy gave it away basically on eBay. I got it for next to nothing because he spelt the barge name wrong. And I couldn't understand why he was selling it, because you're devaluing the whole product then, aren't you, really? Because you're removing an element of it.
We've seen some people do some crazy stuff with barges already, like give them a complete repaint and cover them in all kinds of nonsense and fairy lights and everything. So if you don't want the book and it's not of interest to you, let Brian buy it. He'll give you good money for it.
I've got a habit of going on eBay and deliberately misspelling the names of things to see if you can get yourself a bargain. What are you most looking forward to at Celebration then? Because there's been a few panels announced.
Chasing Dave Tree around in a Porg costume, I think, is the highlight of the show for me.
Yeah, because Dave Tree's joining us on this trip, his first US celebration.
It is his first US celebration. It's quite a scary thing. There's a few Fantatrackers going out and meeting up there, and we'll get to meet some of our American cohorts who report from the other side of the pond about the films, what they make in England. I'm really looking forward to meeting up with all the rest of the gang, hanging out at the booth and doing all kinds of fun stuff. And hopefully far enough away from the Star Wars show stage to not be drowned out by their exciting noises of whoops and cheers about we're giving you a t-shirt or something.
I'm most looking forward to see what they're going to do with Disney Plus. Because obviously we've had The Mandalorian announced, we've had Cassian announced. I'm expecting more live action, potentially to be announced at
Oh, to
Celebration.
be officially announced.
Yes.
Not that we didn't announce it on the site last month.
No. And we've got Clone Wars coming back.
Yep.
Although quite why they advertise it as being saved when they're the ones that killed it off in the first place, I don't know.
Yes.
But potentially more.
Did they create that hashtag? Who knows? Yeah. I'm just glad to see it back because I really enjoyed that show. Did you enjoy it?
Never watched it.
Did you read the comics about it?
I read some of them. Some of them got a little bit too in-depth into the characters, and I didn't know enough about them to make them enjoyable.
Well, I can tell you they were really good and fitted into the canon of the Star Wars animated series.
I'm hoping they do more animation stuff. I'd really like to see them ramp up Star Wars TV content.
Not that you'll watch it.
Not that I'll watch it, but Resistance has just finished its first season, and even I've noticed it's had quite mixed reviews. Not everyone's hugely into it. Obviously, it's going for a younger audience, but there's a
Clone Wars and Rebels and all the Lego stuff I watched on my own. Then my son is 8, and Resistance, I now save it and watch it with him, and we really enjoy it together.
So there is that gap then in the market for the slightly older connoisseur of animation. If they're building out this huge platform, they're desperate for content on it.
You want some adult animation from Lucasfilm, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You know, like
that, whatever you want, listeners. I know Brian and I'm, okay.
Star Wars Detours should get thrown on that platform. The Ewok movies, the droid cartoons, the Ewok cartoons.
They're hardly adult animation, dude.
No, but get it all out there.
I think the problem with Detours is, and from going to the panel at Celebration a few years back, when they promoted it and shouted about it and had it all there, it was very much of a in the now humour to it. So it would be like doing humour 7 or 8 years ago about current modern affairs and current music and stuff and trying to put it out now. And that is the problem with that show, that the 2 seasons they finished.
You throw it out on a platform like Disney Plus, you're not promoting it as a now product. It's just garbage content that you've got out there. And it is one of the last things that George Lucas worked on. Never been released.
He worked on all Clone Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, Detours was a fun project he did with Seth and Matt from the Robot Chicken Gang.
There's no logic to having it stuck on a shelf when you've got a streaming platform like Disney Plus. That's my point.
But they've now bought Fox, so they have lots of new Disney princesses like Kaylee from Firefly, and the Alien Queen is now a Disney princess. And does that also make Frankenfurter from Rock? Oh, you're definitely a Disney princess. My favourite Disney princess now, as they've all become under the banner of
the Alien.
No, the Alien Queen's a good one. My favourite is Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror, because he's definitely now a Disney princess.
That's true.
Pretty sure that's Fox and all. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
Marge would be a Disney princess as well.
Nah.
No?
Nah.
What about Ned Flanders' wife?
Who?
Maud Flanders.
She's not with us anymore.
You can bring her back.
We don't talk about that.
He's still got her face starched into the pillow. And on that note, I reckon we should move on, get stuck into some fodder.
And see where we're getting with the comics and books.
Yeah, let's go. In books on the 26th of February, Thrawn Alliances came out on paperback. That's a best-selling Timothy Zahn continuation of the story of Thrawn, the iconic character that's pretty much coming on to 25 years of Star Wars content featuring Thrawn.
I need to read that. I read the first one. I did the audiobooks, I'm lazy. And I really enjoyed the first audiobook, and the comic of it was really good, so I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that at some point. Have you read it yet?
I have. I really enjoyed it. You know, I was always a big fan of Thrawn. My favourite actually Thrawn stories were actually when he doubled up with Michael Stackpole, did the short stories for the Star Wars Adventure Journal from West End Games. I thought that was some of the best Star Wars content ever written. You know, like the Thrawn origin stories I had back then. And he kind of gets involved a little bit into Thrawn's history and alliances. And I think fans of the character will definitely enjoy that book.
Does it bring back Ensign? Oh God, what the character's name is now? Ensign Rowe from the first book, or is he gone completely now?
I can't remember. But it connects everything. So again, on Thrawn Alliances, you go to Batuu, which is always fun, because we're gearing up for Star Wars Galaxy Edge arriving.
Does he go and buy loads of merchandise?
Probably. Stands in a lot of queues. You know, but a guy like Thrawn's got patience, you know.
He definitely has patience. Does he get to eat lots of really nice, expensive food?
He probably does. Anyway, on the 5th of March, we had Queen's Shadow from A.K. Johnson. She did the best-selling Ahsoka novel. Now she's focusing in on Padme. A nice little book telling a story of Padme and her handmaidens.
Great author. Sold her a pair of shoes at New York a couple of years ago. Bizarrely.
Yeah, and it's a really nice book that explores the character. The only thing I felt about was that there wasn't a conflict. There wasn't like a narrative that really flowed through it to drive the story forward. But if you're a fan of Padme, you want to know more about the handmaidens, it's a nice, comfortable, gentle, character focus piece. And
cool.
I think...
Didn't I hear they got Kat Taylor to do the audiobook or something?
She does, yes.
Brilliant. Because I saw on Instagram she was doing, Kat Taylor and EK were doing a tour with it.
They were, yeah.
They did a signing tour in America, and then Kat Taylor sat and did some story excerpt reads, like I think they'd actually do with the Ahsoka book, which I think is a really, really nice touch.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch too. Talking of audiobooks, again on the 5th of March, Star Wars The Prequel Trilogy came out on a read-along storybook and CD collection. Nice to see that coming out on the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. Just approaching us.
Or is that a reissue of old stuff?
It's new material.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, they've been redoing that whole series, so we're almost at the end of those adaptations now. On the 19th of March, Cavan Scott, Choose Your Destiny, an Obi-Wan and Anakin adventure novel came out. Love these, and I love it more because my good friend Eddie, that does the Star Wars Timeline website, always plots out the correct route through the book, which is incredibly complicated, and he's got a really cool graphic up on his website. Go and check it out. Also on the 19th of March, we had adaptations for Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, and The Empire Strikes Back come out. These are lovely new covers on the novels that came out in 2015, entitled Beware the Power of the Dark Side, The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy, and So You Want to Be a Jedi, if you remember those. The covers I've got now follow the design that Egmont in the UK have used, that kind of shadow effect. So nice. If you've collected that range of novels, these are another 3 to add to that design take. And that was all the novels and books that came out in the past month. In magazines this past month, we had Lego Star Wars 44 come out in the UK, featuring a good character friend of yours, Matt.
45?
Was it 40?
In front of me.
Was it 45? I do apologise.
Yeah, well, you should do. It comes with an awesome Slave 1 toy. So, as my Boba Fett focus set, I grabbed a few copies of that. And you get a mini, I wouldn't say micro, because micro is sort of the advent calendar thing. This is sort of mini build Slave 1 with 31 bricks. And it's really rather cool. Inside the comic magazine, you get a couple of Boba Fett comic strips, which were really rather good fun. One entitled Emperor for a Day, Lego Darth Vader Takes Over. That's got no Boba Fett in it, unfortunately, so I didn't bother reading that. And the second comic strip is called Junk Pursuit, and it's Boba Fett chasing down a Wookiee gunship and having a bit of fun with that. So that was a really, really good issue. And then next month's comes with a U-Wing cool toy. 36 pieces with moving wings.
We also got the disappointing news that Star Wars Adventures magazine has come to an end. It's slowly been winding down for a while. It's been released every other month as part of Download magazine by Egmont, but now it has finished. But in its place, exciting news, we have a new publisher to the Star Wars magazine scene, Immediate Media.
That's the ones.
They have launched a magazine called Star Wars Galaxy Magazine. First issue comes with pretty cool locking notepad and a Stormtrooper pen.
Not in a poly bag, so you can actually look through the magazine without having to open it, which I rather like.
It's got a lot of pretty cool content. Kids will love it.
Yep.
Again, it's going for the same market, that young age that Star Wars Adventures went for. And it's also started publishing again the Star Wars Rebel comics. They kicked off the first issue with Ring Race by Martin Fisher. That was the very first comic released when they did the Star Wars Rebels magazine, when Titan produced that.
So it's a reprint of an old story.
So it's gone back to the very beginning of the Rebels comics. And hopefully they carry on and they release the Rebels comics, because there was quite a few few that got published in Germany never got published in the UK, and so they've never been published in the English language anywhere in the world. So
how bizarre.
Hopefully Star Wars Galaxy magazine kicks on and we get through all the Rebels comics and we get some brand new ones. Also out, just as we're recording, was Star Wars Insider 188. I've not received it as yet.
Not seen it anyway yet, but I did see our little old mate Daniel Logan on the Instagrams posting a picture of the inside saying there's an interview with him and Peter Mayhew in there. And Peter Mayhew, I think, was interviewed quite recently by, the third of our trio who's not bothered to turn up tonight, Mark Newbold. So well done, Mark. Nice to interview in the Insider again. Good for you, mate.
When we mentioned West End games earlier, also in 188 is like a history of Star Wars role-playing games. So it goes all the way back to West End, I believe, and all the way through to modern stuff. So,
did you ever play the West End game stuff?
I played it when I was at university. That's how long ago it was.
I played it in the late 90s as well with a load of mates.
I used to use...
My character got killed, though.
When Mark, again, not here to back his own story up, he used to have a website before us. You know, there was a time before us called Lightsaber, and he used to put RPG content up on there. And I used to use some of that.
Yeah.
Back before I even knew Mark.
But you used him anyway.
I'd used him anyway.
I used to play it with mates, and we did campaigns for about 2 or 3 years, and then we all went into a forest moon planet, got on speeder bikes, tried to do a run through the forest, and 2 of our party died horribly. Had a couple of bad rolls and crashed into a tree, and DM's like, really sorry, I can't save this when you're dead. So then we got to play Magic the Gathering and other stuff for a while.
In comics this past month, on the 20th of February, we had Solo: A Star Wars Story, issue 5, the 5th part of 7 of the adaptation of the film by Robert Thompson and Will Sliney. On the 27th of February, Dr. Aphra, issue 29, the 4th part of the series Worst Among Equals by Simon Spurrier and Emilio Lazio. On the 27th of February, we had Star Wars by Jason Aaron. This is a beautiful hardback graphic novel from Marvel, collecting all of Jason Aaron's work on the Star Wars series. That's issues 1 to 37 of the Star Wars line. Vader Down, The Screaming Citadel, and Star Wars Annuals 1 through 3. On the 6th of March, Vader Dark Visions, issue 1 from Dennis Hopeless and Paolo Villanelli, the comic book series that replaced the intended series by Chuck Wendig. On the 6th of March, we also had Star Wars issue 2, The Scourging of Shu-Toran, issue 1, Kieran Gillen, Andrea Brocardo, beautiful little series. It's the start of the end of Kieran's run on Star Wars line. Also on the 6th of March, we had Age of Republic Padme Amidala issue 1 by Jodie Hauser and Corey Smith, as well as the collection Ewoks Flight to Danger, the David Manek Warren Creamer paperback graphic novel from Marvel, collecting Ewoks issues 1 through 10, first published by Star Comics, an imprint of Marvel Comics, between May 1985 and November 86. On the 30th of March, we had Han Solo Imperial Cadet issue 5, the last in that series, by Robbie Thompson, Leonard Kirk. Also on the 13th was Age of Republic General Grievous issue 1 by Jodie Hauser and Luke Ross. From IDW, we had the paperback graphic novel of Star Wars Adventures Volume 5, Mechanical Mayhem, Chad Thomas, Elsa Chartier, Pierrick Collinet, collecting Star Wars Adventures 9, 12 and 13. On Wednesday the 20th of March, we had Solo: A Star Wars Story issue 6, as well as Star Wars issue 63 from Kieran Gillen, the 300th comic since Marvel came back to the Star Wars line. IDW also had a comic out on the 20th of March, Star Wars Adventures Treasury Edition, the prequel trilogy, the first of 3 trilogy editions, one celebrating each Star Wars trilogy. So my comic delivery hasn't arrived yet this month, so I haven't had the luxury of checking out Star Wars comics so far. Matt, you've got your own comic shop, so you've got no excuse. So educate me. What's been great in Star Wars comics this past month?
As ever, Star Wars 62 with Kieran Gillen, the scourging of the show Tauron, was blooming awesome. Brings back in some of the background characters you saw in Rogue One and when we visited the planet over the Star Wars issues. So that was absolutely excellent. Leia is plotting the demise of the Queen Trios, and we're getting the gang back together again after their time spent on that weird planet, and they're all getting together to go and take her out, and they've brought back some of the other characters, so that's a sort of nice build up to that. I think this is probably the final story arc if it's 62. What did you say it ended on? 66?
67 is the final one.
67 is the final of Kieran, so I think this is the final. I don't know. I've not read the blurbs about the latter ones, so I don't like to know. But this is like we're building up to the end of Leia versus Trios, so that was a really good issue. Slow builder. I bet Kieran's great at doing that. Red Darth Vader Dark Visions by Dennis Hopeless. More of a story of a blue kid on a knackered planet where they live underground, and he witnesses Vader versus a big space battle. Blue kid watches space battle happen. Vader comes down to the planet in his TIE fighter. TIE fighter's knackered. Vader jumps out of TIE fighter. Kid goes up an escalator. There's an escalator in it that I thought was very weird with living under the planet. And then Kid watches Darth Vader fight a Japanese kaiju monster shark.
How bizarre.
Yes. So it's Darth Vader versus Jaws kaiju. And then he rides in on a black horse with spiky demon things. Yeah, a good little story. I mean, it's definitely a kaiju because it does a big power fireball Godzilla type thing in it as well, like the Mecha Godzilla fire nonsense. Yeah, but it was a good read. Wasn't really sure about Star Wars kaiju, but then we had that in Clone Wars, which you wouldn't know about. But that was cool. I quite enjoyed it. Bit different.
So what?
I think it's more of the kid's story point of view more than being Vader's. It's all told in the storytelling of the kid. So a bit like Broom Boy telling the stories of the Jedi and the rebels and resistance in the end of Last Jedi. So it was more that kind of analogy to it. That was all right. Red Grievous, another sort of nondescript story of the Star Wars Republic, Age of Resistance, Age of all that stuff. But it was all right. And it was quite trippy in places like the other ones have been. So him going back and you see him as his Kaleesh warrior original flesh form. That weren't too bad. And the Padme story was, it was all right. These Age of Republic and Age of Resistance and Age of Rebellion books all seem to be a bit all right, but really nothing of significance happens in them. And there is nothing that ties them together. Have you found that with the ones you've read?
Yeah, that's what's kind of disappointed me. And
I was looking for a flow line through them.
I kind of mentioned it on the last podcast that the whole Age of thing and seems to be based on the fact that they're doing that in the Marvel line, but they don't really have a plot line to connect the Star Wars ones. Yeah. But it's been interesting to get some different artists involved in the series and to get character-focused issues as well. Especially, you've got ones like Tarkin and Jabba who we haven't seen in Star Wars comics in quite some time.
Tarkin we have in the Rogue One era stuff a little bit in the adaptation.
Yeah.
Jabba, when did we last see a Jabba in a comic?
Dark Horse, late 90s probably.
Yeah.
They did
maybe the Phantom Menace adaptation, maybe a panel or two.
Yeah, that would be right.
No, he appeared in the new Vader by Kieran.
Did he?
New Vader, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he appeared when... Yeah, he was in that. Or was it Star Wars? When Marvel took over, he did appear in a couple of issues of that because there was some lovely artwork of him in there. I'm pretty sure it was Vader.
So the way you describe it, it sounds like the art's kind of weird.
In which?
In the Vader.
I don't mind it. It was a good little story, and reflecting on it after I read it was more, it's a story of a kid meeting and seeing Vader as a powerful warrior, rather than being the evil little Annie that he is in the black suit, being all horrible and nasty to everybody. He goes to the planet, he doesn't want to save the kid or anybody else, he just wants to save himself, but ends up the kid seeing him as like a hero character, as a sort of shining knight in armour, more of a sort of space god kind of thing, coming down in the spaceship. So it's actually quite a well-told story. Really wasn't sure about there being escalators in it, and I really wasn't sure about there being literally... I mean, it is kaiju straight from the Godzilla era stuff, and, that kind of gear. But it was a good read. It was a very different point of view, shall we say, of a book. So I didn't mind that in that respect.
What else have you been reading this past month?
Caught up on Afra. I did actually have a quick binge and sit and read everything I hadn't read in the last few months. I've read a few other comics from other creators and stuff. And caught up reading Die by Kieran Gillen, which, if you can find any copies in their umpteenth printings it's had, Die is really good. It's Dungeons and Dragons, set in the modern age, bunch of teenagers go and play D&D in the 80s, a la Stranger Things, all kind of, let's think the 80s is cool again. Haven't seen any Dayglow socks in anything, because when we were kids in the 80s, Dayglow socks were the coolest thing ever. Have you seen any of those in comics or books or novels or anything of the 80s stuff yet?
I haven't seen any of it at all, no.
Did you have Dayglow socks?
Nope.
Oh, see?
You see, I lack the fact that I don't have a comic shop within 100 miles of me. And so you have to
win the internet.
You have to win me over by your solicitation. And if you don't win me over with that,
you ain't ordering it.
I'm not ordering it. I don't have the luxury of
novel,
I don't have the luxury of browsing a comic books shop wall, you know. I
have the same problem. It has to win me over with solicitations. And I look through solicitations and I order what I want for the shop.
Yeah.
But it's got to sell.
That's very
But yeah, Die by Kieran Gillen was really good. And then I had a flick through and sold up before I can even read it of Oliver by Gary Whitta, the guy who wrote Rogue One. And that looked cool. And really good artwork by Derek Robinson, who I like because he did The Boys and Transmetropolitan. But I didn't actually get to read it because it sold out that quickly. I should have ordered more, I think.
And I think at this juncture, we should hand over to Mr. Mark Newbold, who's been absent on this show because he's been too busy organising the podcast stage for Celebration, to get his thoughts on the Star Wars comics that he's read this month.
So what did you think, Mark?
Okay, thanks guys, and apologies for not being able to be there this time. It's all a bit crazy with the whole Celebration planning, but it's all going really good. It's well worth it. So, and next month we'll be all back to normal, fingers crossed. So I'm going to go through the comics that I've had a chance to read this month. I'm going to kick off with Age of Republic General Grievous. It's one of the problems with this Age of Republic series. It either nails it when it finds a little nugget that you don't feel that you've read before, or it feels kind of superfluous. And Age of Republic General Grievous is one that sadly doesn't quite hit the mark. Jodie Hauser finds the voice. She absolutely finds the voice of Grievous. You can pretty much hear Matthew Wood saying the words, which is always good, and the battle droids, because they're pretty much the only two characters that speak. So both Matthew Wood. So I would imagine he'll sign this one at conventions, I would imagine. But it doesn't really expand an awful lot upon what we know of Grievous. There's nothing much that we learn. We know he got his sabres from Jedi that he had slain. That's seen here. It's another one a bit like the Qui-Gon and the Darth Maul entries, where there's dream vision sequences when he's having not even an epiphany, just dream quest moments when he's seeing himself as he was before, and he takes out a Jedi temple that's hidden in the forest. It's nicely drawn, it's well presented. Marvel are nailing it with the covers. I absolutely love the different covers you get. It's a fine job in terms of layout, but the story doesn't really give us anything new that we didn't already know before. Next up was the Age of Republic special. It felt very much like the Star Wars tales that Dark Horse used to do back in the day. It's a good issue. It's sort of split down into 3 separate stories. They're all okay. I mean, the first one is The Weapon, which is set before The Phantom Menace. Primarily a Mace Windu story. He's kind of travelling the galaxy, doing his thing, gets captured by a group of rogues. Doesn't tell you anything new about it. One thing that it does do is it kind of shows the arrogance of the Jedi at this time. They don't see the bad things that are about to come. They don't realise what's around the corner, and why would they? So it does kind of put a highlight on that. It feels like everything's kind of rote. And that's not the writing, that's the Jedi. Everything is pretty easy. Everything is pretty straightforward and standard. They're kind of rolling through life, just being the good guys, and there's not much to stop them, and it all feels well within hand. So in that sense, it's got value, but as a real nailed-it-down story, not a huge amount to it. The second story, Sisters, which is an Asajj Ventress story. Everybody likes seeing Asajj. She's a great character. She's had a good character turn in Clone Wars. The twist of her sort of moving from the position she was in previously with the Night Sisters onto like a life in the underworld. It was an interesting twist. And this kind of sits around the time of The Wrong Jedi, Season 5 Clone Wars. It's an interesting time period to be in, but on Coruscant, sort of lower levels, so you're seeing a bit of what that world's about. The story tells you nothing. Again, kind of superfluous. There's a couple of characters look a bit like anime characters with the ears and the tails and that kind of thing. It's a 5-minute encounter stretched over, half a dozen pages, and it's beautifully drawn, but it doesn't advance Asajj at all, doesn't tell us much that we didn't already know. But the final entry, 501+1, is a little gem. Captain Rex, Anakin Skywalker, and it's all about a run-in they have with Jar Jar. It shows Jar Jar in a good light. Jar Jar can be seen as a goofy character, and he is a goofy character, probably by his own admission, but, you see Jar Jar showing a bit of spine and a bit of bravery, and he won't leave this man behind, and Jar Jar is a leader. He can be a leader. He's not a charismatic leader like Leia, he's not a heroic leader like Anakin, but he can lead by example, and he shows that example here, and it's beautifully drawn. Caspar Wingard and Chris Peter do a really good job. job, and there's some beautiful variant covers as well. So I would say the Age of Republic one shot as this is definitely worth getting, and I'm hoping that they do the same for Rebellion and Resistance. In fact, I believe Rebellion, the cover as one of the variant covers, has all been shown with IG-88, so we know that's coming. Very good, and I would recommend this comic. Now, the next issue is probably my favourite, I would say, of the Age of Republic series so far. Age of Republic Padme Amidala. I think Jodie Hauser absolutely nailed the voice of Padme in this. And not just in making you feel like it was Natalie Portman or Kat Tabor doing the role, both of whom have inhabited it and absolutely own it, but just in the sense of Padme, she was never the same character as Leia. She is regal in the sense that she was an elected queen, so there's all the pageantry that goes with that, and that's fine. I like all the elements of that. That's good. But she's a doer. She's a dreamer in the best sense, in that she wants the best for the galaxy. She doesn't want people to change. She wants people to find a common ground, which is why I always thought her and Obi-Wan were good counterparts, because he's a negotiator and she's in the best sense, a compromiser. She doesn't want everybody to completely change their culture. That's the thing. You know, you can have a culture that's completely different to yours or mine, but it can be worked so that you appreciate each other's cultures and you can find a common ground. And she's all about finding a common ground. So we join them on Coruscant before Padme tells Anakin she's heading to Duros, but she's not actually heading to Duros. She's heading to the world of Klabron, which is quite a striking location, green skies, skyscrapers, but she's there to try and bring these people onto the side of the Republic, but they don't really want to take a side. They're quite nervous about picking a side because they don't want to get pulled into the war, which is understandable. But one thing that's really strong in this one is that Padme has her handmaidens with her, which is really cool because, you know, we've just got Queen's Shadow come out. There's a focus on the handmaidens there, so there's a focus on them here. And it shows that they're not the Dora Milaje from Black Panther or anything like that, but they have that kind of feel about them. I think in my review I refer to them as the Dora Milaje wearing Prada, which is kind of a silly, goofy line, but I think you would get what I meant by that. They're not there as warriors, but they're every bit as powerful as any other bodyguard. And they're also her decoys and her loyal protectors, as she says in The Phantom Menace. Padme understands that she's not going to end the war with one major movement. You know, the only person that could ever do that was Palpatine with Order 66. Her heart is so strongly entrenched in wanting to make the galaxy work. She'll enter into aggressive negotiations, as she says in Attack of the Clones, but she can sit down and talk it through and find a common ground, then that's what she'll do. She's not about changing people. That's certainly not the way I ever read Padme as a character. She wants everybody to coexist. We look at Earth expecting everybody to get on, and there's thousands of cultures on Earth. Will you imagine how many cultures there are in the galaxy? First contact's happening every day because there's millions of planets, inhabited planets, let alone the different species on that planet. I'm rambling. Age of Republic, Padme Amidala. It's the 8th entry out of the 9 comics in the series, and I really, really enjoyed it. Another excellent entry, Age of Republic Jango Fett. Now, this one was a real surprise because I think it's easy with Jango and Boba to kind of write them in the same way and give them the man of mystery element, which we know is there. Boba, in another time, would have ideally been played by like a Clint Eastwood kind of actor, you know, that very terse and short on words, doesn't talk too much. But in this one, it is focusing on Jango. We know what Jango's about, but we learn here a few elements of the character that we didn't know before. You know, we've seen him out working with other bounty hunters. He's got that reputation, just like his son will have years later. We know that Jango made his money in his dealings with Count Dooku, but we see their meeting in this one on the moons of Bogdan, which is fascinating to see the deal be struck and the horse trading that was done to make this deal happen. And what a hugely important moment in the history of the galaxy that really is, but very small. And my point is that Jodie Hauser, when she gets it right, really nails these small character moments, and this is one that really, really works. And also from the Boba Fett point of view, you're watching young Boba watch his father do what he does, and you don't realise quite how much he's picking up. And there's a moment of almost pride when Jango realises that Boba really is paying attention. Beautifully drawn Luke Ross. You can't really go wrong with Luke Ross. One thing I would say, I think he's better with a strong inker, when he's got a confident inker. I think I put in the review that it reminds me a little bit of when John Byrne, back in the day, back in the 80s, came from Marvel to DC and was drawing a lot of his own stuff because Byrne is a machine. He was pumping stuff out for fun. And on certain titles, he would draw it all himself. On others, he would draw the characters and somebody else would draw the backgrounds. And because he was so rushed at one point, he was doing all the art himself. And he was always better with a Terry Austin or a Cole Kessel doing the inking, and it tightened his work up and made it just look that much more striking. And I think Luke Ross is the same. I think he would benefit from a stronger ink. He's a penciler, not predominantly an inker, I would say. I'm not criticising the artwork, it's just an observation. I really, really enjoyed them. Some more than others. I say Padme and Django, especially good. Parts of the Age of Republic special, very strong. And I'm looking forward to Age of Rebellion. I'm really looking forward to that. Kicks off in April and it should be fun.
In the news this month, StarWars.com had an interview about the new book that's coming out called How Not to Get Eaten by Ewoks. So it's like a galactic survival skills guide. I guess it's a bit like Bear Grylls.
A bit like Bear Grylls with his mate Warwick Davis. Yeah. Is it, if you see a bit of meat on the floor in a big net, don't go and pick it up, Chewbacca.
Yeah. It's described as a tongue-in-cheek guide to staying alive in the Star Wars galaxy, with detailed lists of the deadly predators to watch out for and helpful flowcharts to get you out of pretty much any situation.
But I could do that book in one sentence. How not to get eaten by Ewoks. Don't go to Endor. There we go, sorted.
There you go. But then it goes into how not to get eaten by other stuff, like the Sarlacc. There you go. That's another Boba Fett reference for you.
He got out. He's fine.
StarWars.com also had an interview with E.K. Johnson about Queen's Shadow as it was released. She described how she first fell in love with Padme and the Handmaidens when she was 15 years old. Great little interview. Really goes into quite good detail about her love for the characters, and it'll get you really psyched for picking up the book.
Yeah, she was also on the Star Wars show as well.
She was, that's true, yeah. Our good friend Gonzalo did a little piece for the Panther Tracks website about the Polish Star Wars figures in a new book that's been released entitled Far, Far Away. Written entirely in English, it looks at Polish vintage Star Wars action figures. Definitely one to jump on panthertracks.com and go to the literature section, check that out.
Looks like a very interesting book cataloguing as many as possible that are known of the bootlegs.
We got the news that John Tyler Christopher will be at Star Wars Celebration, and he will have a exclusive issue 64 variant in partnership with Wonderworld Comics. So if you head to their booth, you can buy it at the show. I'm pretty sure John will be there and signing.
Yeah, another one of those mail away sort of mailer boxes with the tray of 3 or 4 figures in.
Yes,
isn't it?
He's got really cool. Greedo, Blue Snaggletooth, Hammerhead and Walrus Man. The proper names I use, not the rubbish that they give nowadays.
Ithorian.
Hammerhead, Walrus Man. Describe them as they are.
Yep.
And this past week, Marvel published their 300th new Star Wars issue since they took back the license from Dark Horse Comics when Star Wars issue 63 hit shelves just on Tuesday there. Or well,
yeah, and
Tuesday if you own the shop, Wednesday if you like the rest of us.
But yeah, they put the word Star Wars up the wrong way on the cover, so it looked way out of skew if with me.
That's what you do when you reach 300.
You let the logo fall sideways.
Yes.
So my pile to read, I've not had a chance to read it yet because I've been quite busy this week, but I am really, really, really enjoying Kieran's run on this. I can't wait to see how they get out of the whole mess with Trios and stuff.
Talking of Kieran, it's also, we got the solicitations for June, which has the climactic end of Kieran Gillen's run on the Star Wars line. So issue 67, that's Kieran finished. So as you say...
And he has handed the script in. He did tweet or Instagram, I think, last week that he has handed his final script in.
Yep, so that's out on the 19th of June. It's going to be sad to see him go because he's really added something special to Star Wars comics, created and introduced some awesome characters as well. The other big item in the solicitations for June was Marvel's Art of Star Wars, a hardcover collection of some of the best Star Wars art that's been produced in comic format over the years, and it's due to come out 2nd of October.
Is that just of Marvel art or all comic art?
Well, it's called the Marvel Art of Star Wars, but Marvel does like to refer to Dark Horse art as being theirs now.
It kind of is.
It is, kind of.
I mean, Dark Horse reprinted all the old Marvel stuff in their time, so it has all reverted. All ownership's gone back to them, I suppose. There better be plenty of Dave Dorman in there.
I'll tell you exactly what it says.
Okay.
So it says, the Force is strong with artists who have continued the adventures of Luke, Leia, Han, and the rest of the Star Wars characters since they returned to Marvel. This stunning volume celebrates the talents who have illustrated some of the finest covers and stories set in the galaxy far, far away, including John Cassidy, Stuart Immonen, Luneel Francis Yu, Salvador Larocco, Mike Deodato Jr. So it looks like it's Deodato
Deodato.
I'll say everyone's
Potato,
names gets
tomato,
wrong.
Tomato.
So it looks like it's going to focus on the new era of Marvel.
That's fair enough.
Jess Harrell's going to do the writing round about that. And it's going to be cool because you're going to get to relive some of the stuff we've had out over the past 4 years. 4 years now.
Yeah. Or I might get some of the artwork I've not bothered collecting in variant covers like you have.
Yeah, $50. Can't go
Ouch.
wrong.
How big is it?
224 pages.
Oh, that's all right for that much.
Yeah, it's not bad. Nice hardcover to put some weight on the shelves.
Marvel graphic novels and hardcovers, that's not too bad. Other companies may do it slightly cheaper, but Marvel's pricing is pretty much consistent across all the Marvel line, shall we say.
And with that is the news for the past month.
Fantatrax.
So that's us approaching the end of the show, Matt. Last thing to do, as always, is to pick what we're most looking forward to next month. What have you got your eyes on?
All the comics, really, because I'm looking forward to Gillen's next issue of Star Wars. I'm looking forward to the New Age of Rebellion books. But I think most of all, probably the Galaxy's Edge comic. I mean, I know I get it in my shop a day early, but I still think I'd have to put it there under the shop and then queue up for it to get it. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to exploring Batu in comic form for the first time, I think.
Are you looking forward to Galaxy Edge opening? Will you go?
I will do, once the queues have died down, and I'm very old and very, 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 very grey.
They might have finished the Resistance ride by then. My pick is going to be Master and Apprentice, the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon book. It's coming out by Claudia Gray from Del Rey. There's a hardcover edition. There's a signed copy exclusive at Books A Million, and there's a Barnes & Noble edition. And I bet you there'll be a Star Wars Celebration edition, so only the 4 editions to find.
Can't wait to watch you at Star Wars Celebration, jumping into the lottery of cluster hell, playing grabsies. Your
my arms will be going like windmills. The elbows will be out.
Watch out for flailing Krennic.
For me, I'm looking forward to this because it's by Claudia Gray, who's written some of the best Star Wars literature since the Disney takeover. It's obviously got Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, 2 fantastic characters. Brilliant because it's the anniversary of the Phantom Menace. It's going to go and look a little bit into the depth of their history and connecting it to Dooku as well. So it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit of a walk through Star Wars history as well. So it looks like it's going to be a fun read.
And when's it set then, in the timeline?
Proper smack bang in the middle of the prequels.
In the middle of them?
Well, just before the Phantom Menace, I think. I'll read it to you. I'm going to read it to you. It's basically, it says...
The Phantom Menace with Qui-Gon, mate?
A Jedi's most essential duty is to pass on what they have learnt. Master Yoda trained Dooku. Dooku trained Qui-Gon Jinn, and now Qui-Gon has a Padawan of his own. So obviously it's set just before the Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan's a Padawan. He's got the weird haircut to match. And,
little rat tail.
Yeah. And so I imagine it's going to go into the trials and tribulations that Obi-Wan has to go to in order to jump up rank tonight. Thanks for joining us again this month on Canon Fodder. You can contact the show by emailing radio@fantatrax.com. Comment on any of our social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest or Tumblr. Of course, you can tune in to Canon Fodder and all the shows on the Fantatrax Radio on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, TuneIn, iHeartRadio or Spreaker. You can also find us on smart speakers such as Amazon, Alexa, Apple HomePod, Google Home and Sonos. You can listen to us in your car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, on your gaming console, television and on YouTube at Fantatrax TV. You've got no excuse, so listen in, subscribe, give us some nice feedback and ratings, and also check out our dedicated page at fantatrax.com/radio.